What's up everybody, Matt Maran here for another car review. This is of course the 2018 Hyundai Elantra GT Sport. Huge thanks to Hyundai for providing me with this very nice Elantra Sport to review for you guys today. So about the Elantra GT Sport, well I already reviewed the regular Elantra Sport, the sedan version. The GT version is the hatchback, so it's kind of different. Sometimes Sport means the hatch or the an SUV version, and in this case the GT is what means this is the hatchback, and then the Sport is the sportier version, like it should be. This looks really good. So this overseas is called the i30, so it looks a little different than the regular Elantra here that we get in the States, but I think it's a really nice kind of streamlined front end there, very sleek. There aren't any bulges really or anything, just tiny little scoops there in the front bumper. Otherwise just a very smooth grille that's very low there on the vehicle. Some nice attractive headlights. I really love this scarlet red color too. I think it really is a nice shade of red. It's darker than your average run-of-the-mill red, and really just looks a little more upmarket, and I really like the way it looks. I also really like these 18-inch wheels you get here on the Sport version, which are a darker gray and look very good as well. And then going down to the sides here, it's a very nice compact shape, much like many of the other hatchbacks in this segment. Going out to the back there, you can see again some nice attractive tail lamps. Nothing too wild, just fits in with the rest, and looks good without being too crazy or anything. You have little exhaust outlets there at the corners, and overall it's a pretty nice look there in the back as well. And one thing I really like too, now this one has the panoramic sunroof, and that allows you to have this fully blacked out roof, which really looks nice set against the scarlet red color here. And they actually painted basically the entire roof black there as well, in addition to the glass portions, and so really gives this almost like a two-tone look whenever you're standing up and looking at it. And overall I think it's a really attractive little small car. Whereas the interior of the 2018 Hyundai Elantra GT Sport, well, it's a really cool and sporty place to be, actually. So anyway, first things first, sitting down in these seats, you have standard leather seats here in the GT Sport, and so they're pretty nice and supportive seats. They're perforated, they're heated as standard as well. Now this one also has the tech package, which gives you cooled seats as well, or ventilated, I guess. And so anyway, but just really nice seats. The bolstering is a little bit on the wider side, but it has pretty good, large chunky bolsters, but they do accommodate all body types, and so overall pretty good seats. Next to the steering wheel here in the Elantra GT Sport, which is really nice, very similar to the regular Elantra Sport steering wheel, where you have this nice red stripe at the bottom of it, and you have red stitching. I really love all the red stitching and the red accents you have all throughout this interior. It really helps to make it feel just a little bit spicier than a regular ho-hum black interior. I love around the vents you have some red, you have the red piping and red stitching on the seats as well, which looks very good. But anyway, getting back to the steering wheel, it's a nice thinner wheel, has a little bit of a thickness to it. But once you get down to the 9-3 grip, it gets a little bit narrower, and it's just a really nice wheel here. It also has a few buttons on it, nothing too complicated, just one to control your gauge cluster and another for your audio controls and Bluetooth stuff, and that's really about it. And so it's a nice smaller wheel too. You have little paddle shifters here on the back, which are plastic and feel a little cheap, but for the price point that we're at, totally acceptable. And so overall, really nice steering wheel. Next, the gauges here in the Elantra GT Sport, which are decent gauges. Honestly, I find them a little bit boring. They're just your basic analog gauges, and then you have a little color display there in the middle, but it isn't too colorful, with the color utilization. You just have your basic trip information, which is, very concisely arranged, and I really like the way they have it laid out. Very simple. You also have a digital speedometer there if you like, and then you also have, your navigation instructions can be displayed on there, and, a few other basic things, so it's good to have, but not as high-tech as some of the other stuff in this segment, some of the competitors out there. But you also do have, whenever you put it into sport mode, it gets a little orangish to help indicate that it's a little bit of a sportier mode. So they do a little bit, but still the gauges are just a little bit underwhelming. Coming over to the center of the dashboard here, right up top you have this nice large 8-inch touchscreen display, which is really good. So it's the same basic thing you get in any kind of Hyundai or Kia really, and this one, since it has the tech package, gives you navigation, which is good, pretty decent maps like you see again in any other product like this, but it does have Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, which is a really great feature, and I obviously would recommend that. I think it's a little easier to use, just plug your phone in and have all your directions that way. And so but otherwise this screen's really simple and straightforward. Thankfully you have a volume and tune knob, so changing radio stations, things like that is all very easy, and you have your few button shortcuts there, but just a very simplified screen, does all the basics, and isn't too overwhelming or complicated, and I really appreciate that. So overall, really well done screen. Coming down, you have your standard dual zone climate controls here in the GT Sport as well, which is a really nice thing that, again, you don't get with a lot of other vehicles in this segment unless you go for a higher trim or something like that. And so nice to have all that. You have a little screen that displays all your settings there, and so overall, just a few buttons here, but a very simplified and concise center area, and I really like it. As far as storage space here in the Elantra GT Sport, it's pretty good, for a small vehicle like this. So first off, in the doors, you have a large map pocket, which is really good for a small car like this. It has a nice large bottle holder in there as well, kind of almost like two, but a really nice amount of space there. Coming over to the center, you have this little cover that hides what you can see here is a 12-volt power outlet, a USB jack, an auxiliary jack, and also, since this one is the tech package, you have a wireless Qi charging pad there, and so that's really great. You can put your smartphone on there if it does the wireless charging, and it will charge, and that's really cool and nice to have, and it's nicely rubberized so your phone doesn't slide around or get scratched or anything. And so really nice large amount of space in there. It'll fit any of those modern smartphone sizes. Really good space there. And then coming back, you have two cup holders. One is a little smaller than the other, but it still does fit a standard size cup. It'd just be oversized, really large cups that might struggle to fit into that second one, but it should be good enough. And then you have another slot here where you could fit the key or something like that in there, or your phone. If you don't have the wireless thing, you can do that in there. And then you have this center armrest, which does look very nice and has the red stitching, but isn't too soft. There's just only a little bit of padding. But anyway, you open that up, and then you'll see a nice square cubby area here that also has another 12-volt power outlet in there, and that's it. But a nice large amount of space, again, for a vehicle of this size. And so overall, pretty good amount of storage space in this little car. Backseat space in the Elantra GT Sport is pretty good, right in line with a lot of the competition, where it's spacious enough to definitely be usable, but not a ton of space. So I'm 5'9", me sitting behind myself, I have about an inch or two of legroom to spare there, and about an inch or two of headroom. I think if you didn't have the panoramic moonroof, you probably have a little bit more headroom as well, so something to keep in mind for those that are going to be using this that are taller. But it's a pretty nice, comfortable back seat there. You have another bottle holder in the doors. You have your own air vents back there, which isn't something you get in all the vehicles in this class, so that's nice. They even have the nice red accenting on those as well. And then you have a fold down center armrest, which also has two cup holders in it. And so overall, a pretty nice back seat. It's pretty comfortable. It also has the red stitching and everything. And those seats do fold flat if you'd like, so you want to have more cargo space, you can totally do that as well. Trunk space in the Elantra GT Sport is actually better than a lot of the competition, simply because they didn't worry about having a perfectly flat load floor, and instead you have a nice deep cargo area there that kind of goes down even below where the hatchback kind of ends, like a lot of the others do. So I think because of that, it actually feels a lot more spacious than a lot of the competing vehicles in this segment. And it's a pretty good amount of space. You can easily fit several suitcases in there. You have a nice little cargo cover. There's a power outlet back there, and even though you have a nice very low floor, you still do have enough space. You open up that floor, and you'll see your spare tire there, which is nice. They still have a spare tire, and so overall, really nice large amount of cargo space for, again, a vehicle that's this small. All right, so start them and go for a drive. The Hyundai here, the Elantra GT Sport, has this really nice and expensive feeling key, honestly. Has some metal accents to it, has a really nice weight to it as well. Some glossy piano black buttons there on the back. And of course, it's keyless access and push button start here as standard in the Elantra GT Sport, which is really nice. So anyway, you just put your foot on the brake, hit the engine start button, and it starts right up. All right, so setting off in the 2018 Hyundai Elantra GT Sport. So first thing you notice, well, this is the dual clutch automatic transmission, which is, I think, $1,100 more, and it's an actual dual clutch, and you know and feel that it is a dual clutch. While some have gotten a little more advanced, this one, it's pretty smooth, but there are still some times where you feel like there's someone there like operating an actual clutch, and you can feel kind of a catch point still and things like that. So it isn't totally seamless and doesn't feel quite as smooth as a regular, torque converter automatic. It also is sometimes a little slow with its shifts as well. Again, like as if someone's actually shifting gears. So it's not the quickest, but I'm gonna continue to test that out. Other things though that are great, visibility is excellent. You have a nice large windshield, pretty thin A-pillar here, and then nice large side windows, and then view out of the back is also pretty good as well, again, for a small vehicle like this. But I'm putting it into sport mode here, and let's turn down onto this back road and see how it does. And here we go. Downshift, then it takes off. Okay, it does a pretty good job. It's pretty good acceleration. So we're dealing with a 1.6 liter turbocharged 4-cylinder engine that does 201 horsepower and 195 pound-feet of torque, just like it does in any other Hyundai or Kia product with this motor in it. The Veloster Turbo that I reviewed recently, that has this motor. You know, the regular Elantra Sport has this motor as well. It's a really versatile little motor, and it's quite good. You know, it's very punchy. You know, 195 pound-feet of torque really kicks in at a nice low RPM, so it feels, you know, really punchy around town. You're not waiting for a turbo really or anything. And in sport mode here, it's really eager to give you a downshift, but this is something I think I experienced a little bit in the Veloster Turbo as well, where sometimes when you go full throttle or you're getting on the gas after a downshift, it still has like a little bit of a delay before it's fully engaged, and then it starts giving you the power. But you know, it does keep it in those higher RPMs whenever it sees that you're still heavy with your throttle inputs, and so it's pretty intelligently programmed here, at least with the you know, the way that it holds onto gears. It's pretty cool. And we're gonna put it over into manual mode here. We can try the manual shifts here. Downshifts are pretty quick. See about the upshifts. Yeah, it's not super responsive. So this is kind of how I experienced again in the Veloster Turbo, which I'm sure shares lots of the mechanicals and programming here. Because yeah, downshifts are always really quick. It's just those upshifts that sometimes are pretty good. Other times can really make you wait a little while. So it's very hit or miss with the manual shifting here. Honestly though, I think it does a good enough job in the automatic mode just to leave it in drive, especially when you're in sport mode. You know, it'll give you those aggressive, you know, downshifts and really work with you, so you really don't have to mess with manual shifting too much. Other things to note here, there is a decent amount of ride noise. That's one thing that I'm noticing, even though we're on a pretty smooth road here. Still just a little, you know, bit of a, I guess, roar that, you know, you hear from those tires there. Nothing too bad or obnoxious, and about what you expect from vehicles in this segment, especially at this price point. Some of the more expensive competitors, you know, might have a little more sound deadening and also be a little heavier. This doesn't bother with any of that stuff, and so because of that, you know, it's a little bit noisier in here, not too bad. Another thing to note is the exhaust note. So if you really listen for it whenever you don't have the radio on or anything, you can hear a little burble from the exhaust, and especially if you have the windows down, you can hear it a little bit better, especially at lower speeds, but it certainly could be louder. For a vehicle with sport, if it's actually going to be a sporty model and you know, want to challenge the other hot hatches and stuff, it needs to have a little more sound, because it sounds good from what you do here. I just wish the volume was turned up. I think that would, you know, be really great if they were able to do that. And I'm sure, of course, if you want to do something like that in the aftermarket, you can easily get you know, an aftermarket exhaust that will fix that very quickly. All right, coming up to some corners here, let's see how the Elantra GT Sport handles. Wow, it's got a pretty good amount of grip, I have to say. I was expecting it to have not quite as much grip than it does, but it's doing a really good job. We got 225 wide Hankook Ventus all-season tires, but they're really doing a good job of gripping the road here, and this thing just feels really nice and flat, actually. It feels really good. So we have a multi-link independent rear suspension, in addition to, of course, the front suspension being independent as well. And this is also, you know, pretty light vehicle, only right over 3,000 pounds, 3,058 to be exact. And so because of that, it's just really feels buttoned down and feels really good, honestly. It almost, you know, it feels lighter than like a GTI or something like that, a little more tossable because of that. It feels, everything just feels a little lighter, just, I don't know, just a little smaller, honestly, even than a GTI. I really like the way this handles. I gotta say, I'm pretty impressed. I mean, the Elantra Sport, the regular sedan, handled pretty well, but that felt either a little heavier to me or something. This just feels really nice and light, and I just really grippy too. And I mean, you know, these are even all seasons. If you go to full summer tires, you'd probably even be better off. But as it is, this thing really does a good job. And it's, I mean, there are times where, you know, I feel like the engine is caught in between gears there. It kind of didn't know what to do. But it still feels pretty punchy. I gotta say, this whole experience is really fun on a back road so far. Although I wish it was a manual. I think the manual is still a better way to go in these vehicles from Hyundai and Kia. I think the manual is definitely more fun. I really enjoyed the manual in the Kia Forte 5. Other things to note, It has some pretty light steering, but it feels pretty accurate, and it has a decent amount of feeling to it as well, so that it feels good, honestly. You know, I mean, it could maybe a tiny bit heavier in sport mode or something would be nice, but honestly, it feels good. Other things, it's got pretty sharp throttle response. You know, you have a little bit of a lag there just because of the turbo, and, you know, waiting for that to spool up, and, you know, so it's not razor sharp, but it is pretty responsive. Once you put your foot down, you know, there isn't any kind of unnecessary laziness built into the pedal or anything. You just wait for the turbo, and then you're set. So very linear with its response there. Brakes also are a little bit of a lighter pedal, and you do have to push down a little bit before you get, you know, any kind of braking action. So not super bitey brakes, but I like that because it means you don't have to be too delicate with your brake inputs, and I think it actually feels really good. Everything about this car feels really, really good, honestly. And it's not even just like considering, oh, well, it's a Hyundai, or making any kind of, you know, exemptions for it. It's just on its own, compared with other vehicles in this segment, it's really a good, fun, sporty little car that I just continue to enjoy taking around another corner after another corner, and yeah, it's just really, I think the most thing I'm impressed about is just how grippy it feels with these tires. Again, it's just really good. I'm not really getting any understeer, honestly. It just keeps just digging in. That nose just tucks in nicely. Other things to note, although you do get some road noise, I will say that the ride is actually pretty smooth so far, and I mean, you feel the road a little bit, but it's not, you know, rough or anything, and actually, you know, feels better than some other vehicles in this segment do, and so that's a pretty good thing as well. But anyway, thanks to Hyundai, I'm going to have this vehicle for an entire week, so I'm going to drive around all week, and I'll come back and give you guys my final real-world fuel economy, and also my thoughts on the price, and also any other observations I have from my week of driving it. Alright, so I've been driving the 2018 Hyundai Elantra GT Sport for about a week now, and I've put 180 miles on it in my time of driving here. And it's a really nice little hot hatch. And there's a lot to really enjoy and like about this vehicle, but it's not without its faults. So the first thing that was a little bit of a disappointment was this infinity stereo. You know, it's a premium option. It's part of the upgrade here with the tech package, and it's not a huge upgrade. I mean, it goes from 6 speakers to 7, and it's not real. I mean, it's a good stereo. It's not bad, but it's not impressive either. That, you know, I don't know if it'd be worth, you know, an upgrade. But, you know, just something that, you know, to note here. I mean, you're only working with 7 speakers, so you're kind of limited with just how much wattage and stuff you can get out of it. One thing that was really impressive about the Elantra GT, to me at least, was the fuel economy. So these are rated at 26 in the city, 32 on the highway, for a combined average of 28. And I actually did do a pretty solid 50-50 mix this time of driving, a good amount of highway driving, and I got right near that combined rating. My fuel economy here over 184 miles was 27.6 mpg, so basically right at that 28 number, which again, really, really good to see, and so I have no doubts that it would hit all the other marks, you know, in all the other segments, but it is still a little thirstier than some of the competitors, you know, where this just barely cracks, you know, with 32 for the highway. Yeah, some of the others, whenever you go up, you know, to some of the ones are maybe a little less powerful, or you know, just a little more modern engine technology. Some of those seem to get, you know, closer to the 40 range on the highway and things like that. So, you know, probably not best in class, but I think, you know, for a little vehicle like this, it's pretty good. But anyway, another thing that was a little underwhelming is this dual clutch. So it's pretty responsive most of the time, but there are some times, especially starting from a stop, where it's a little sluggish, and sometimes where you just catch it in the wrong gear. You catch it off guard, and it can't compensate quickly enough. And so I don't know if that comes down to programming or what, but you know, I still definitely would go for the manual. That would be my pick. But an unfortunate thing about the way they package the Elantra GT, and another gripe I have, is that you can only get the tech package with the extra niceties with the automatic. You cannot get it with the manual. So if you want the ventilated seats, if you want navigation, I mean, navigation is not a huge deal with CarPlay and Android Auto, but if you want navigation, you want ventilated seats, panoramic moonroof, and all the safety tech, that all only comes with the tech package. So, you know, it does have all the, you know, modern safety stuff that these vehicles have these days with, it has full speed cruise control with start and stop, and, you know, all the, you know, blind spot monitoring, all that type of stuff as well. And, you know, it all works very well. Thankfully, it did not give me any kind of false alerts during the week, so it didn't, you know, freak out for no reason. So well done, safety tech there. You know, but so that's only in this tech package. You can't get any of that stuff with the manual. But you know, it's really the main thing is that you can't get like the wireless charging pad, you can't get the ventilated seats, you know, and the panoramic moonroof, those types of things with the manual, which is really a bummer because I feel like a lot of manual buyers are enthusiasts that are willing to spend a little more. I mean, you have the people that want the bare bones car and just the performance and nothing else, but I feel like a lot of the enthusiasts are willing to pay the extra money that this tech package costs. So with the automatic you know, the tech package, this one as tested is right over $29,000. I think it's $29,210. But if you were to go, that tech package is expensive. You go without the tech package and without the automatic, you're sitting at like $24,000. I think $24,350, and that's a really competitive price. And that's where this strong suit is here for this vehicle. Because if you you know, skip you know, the tech package, you still don't lose out on a ton of stuff. You still get standard heated seats. You still get, you know, the leather upholstery, the red accents, the auto climate control, the large 8-inch touchscreen. All that stuff still is standard. So you know, I mean, it's really cool they offer ventilated seats and all that type of stuff, and you know, it'd be nice if they put it in the manual, but just having ventilated seats is a very cool option, since I don't think any of the competition offers that outside of, you know, maybe other Hyundai products or Kia products. It always comes back to the value with the Hyundais, and you know, this I think kind of relies on that a little bit as well, and it's a very strong value. I mean, for $24,000 roughly, you know, the amount of you know, power you get, the amount of, you know, horsepower and torque is better than most other stuff at $24,000. And if it isn't out, you know, there's a few others like the Civic Si that have about the same power for the same money, but Civic Si, you have cloth seats, you know, you have a few less niceties, and you can't get that in a hatch. If you go for the Civic Sport hatch, then you lose out on, you know, 20 odd horsepower, and again, this has that additional power. So, you know, and then you go up to stuff like the GTI, those start at like 26, and then by the time you get into one that has even half of the options this does, you're into the 30s already. So honestly, that's on a whole nother level. I mean, if you're able to make the jump, you know, from 24 to 30, I think the GTI is still probably the more refined and nicer driving vehicle, but it obviously has more power as well. But you know, at this price point this is at, it's really unbeatable. And the only other things you can really compare it to are other products within Hyundai. The Veloster Turbo is excellent. Obviously, the Elantra Sport sedan is excellent. Same price point, same type of value proposition. But outside of that, you know, there's really not a whole lot. And I think that's why these sell so well, because you get so much for your money. And that's just talking MSRP. But it's just a really fun car on its own. You know, independent of the price, independent of the feature set and all that type of stuff. It's a good driving car that's really well set up, and even despite, you know, the dual clutch, you know, being caught off guard a little bit sometimes, it just got excellent grip with these tires. It's just so tossable. It's just fun, and just chuck it into a bend and it just takes off, and it's fun. It puts a smile on your face at a very, very affordable price, and it's so practical as well. You know, I loaded this thing up with 4 people and they were all comfortable, and you know, it's just very, very nice. And so yeah, really a nice little product here that Hyundai's put together. And you know, the only thing that can make it better is a faster version. You know, they do have the i30N, you know, which is the same vehicle as this, but an N version, and unfortunately we do not get an N version of this. I think they said officially they're not bringing one. Maybe they'll change their mind. That would be great. In the meantime, you know, if you do want, you know, higher performance and you want the N, then you'll have to go with the Veloster N, which is coming here this fall of 2018, and that should you know, give you that additional power and be really phenomenal as well. But you know, for daily driving and stuff, 201 horsepower, 195 pound-feet of torque, I think is certainly enough to have fun with. So anyway, huge thanks once again to Hyundai for providing me with this Elantra GT Sport to review for you guys today. Let me know your thoughts on these in the comments below. Thank you guys very much for watching. I'll see you next time. Take care.